Chapter 2, Rocco Abacic, 7:20 p.m. 1, 2, 3, teamwork, echoes inside the circle of Trojans as Coach Alvin Kennedy, a tall, slender black man in his late 30s, breaks the huddle at their bench. So this is an interesting start to the chapter because if we look back to the previous one, the Spartans broke out their huddle with saying victory. And here we have the Trojans breaking out by saying teamwork. And this really shows us a difference fundamentally between these two teams that you are going to see in this book, that the Trojans work as a team. Okay, it takes all of them to succeed, whereas the Spartans, as we see with Malcolm, kind of in it for themselves. Yeah, they're really good players. They know they're really good players, but do they know what it means to function as a team? Then junior Rocco Abacic feels a hand on his shoulder. Kennedy pulls him aside, looks him square in the eye, and says, "This is your time. We thrive on your energy. An extra 5 minutes is nothing for you. Be that Red Bull." "If I'd stopped McBride on that shot, we'd be celebrating right now, cutting down the net," said Rocco, shaking his head in disgust. "That's on me. You couldn't have played any better defense. Just let it go," said Kennedy, gently shoving Rocco onto the court. "You're the only one that's got an answer for Malcolm McBride so far. Don't let him think he's got something over you. And don't you believe it either." Walking onto the court with Rocco is senior center Crispin Rice and senior forward Aaron Boyce. "I forgot under all this pressure. Isn't basketball supposed to be fun?" Crispin asked in a serious tone, glimpsing his fiancée, Hope Daniels, in the middle of a dance routine. She's a Troy cheerleader, a stunning blonde with jade eyes and a sleek athletic body. Before Rocco can respond, Aaron, a native of New Orleans, who has more than 30 relatives and friends attending the game, points into the stands and says, "Nah, it's their job to have all the fun. We get to sweat it out under the microscope." "I'm with Aaron. His family practically owns this Superdome tonight," Rocco tells Crispin. "Just play loose. Your stroke will come back, see Rice." Then Rocco swallows hard before letting go of a long belch. The night before, Aaron's mother had the entire Troy team and coaching staff, nearly 20 people, over to her house for dinner. She served crawfish, gumbo, and red beans and rice. For some of the players, including Rocco, it was their first taste of Cajun cooking. "Son, what's your teammate writing down in that little notebook of his? My dinner menu?" Rocco had heard Aaron's mother asking about him. "He's a journalist, Ma," answered Aaron, sitting a few seats away from Rocco at the kitchen table. "The Red Bull's always writing something in that book. He's practicing to be a reporter one day." "So, Mr. Red Bull reporter, let me ask you a question," said Aaron's mother, sitting down another platter of crawfish. "I know you're from Europe. How do you like that Southern-style food they serve in Troy, Alabama?" "I won't lie, it took my stomach some getting used to, but I've got a taste for grits now," answered Rocco, "and I like the way they deep-fry everything, even the Snicker bars." "Deep-fried candy? Well, New Orleans cooking is a different animal," she said. "It'll get your motor running hot for sure, so be careful. It's spicy enough to have you sweating before the big game." "I'm feeling the heat already," said Rocco, using a hand to fan open his mouth. "I didn't know there were hot pepper baked inside the biscuits, not until I ate 3. "That's jalapeno bread. We're full of warm little surprises down here," she said. "See, we don't have guests at our homes, just extended family. So if there's anything you need, you come straight to me, your brother's mother. You hear?" Rocco nodded his head, copying down a few of her words before he shut his notebook. There wasn't enough space or chairs in the kitchen for everyone, so people were eating in almost every room of the small house and out on the front porch, too. But when Coach Kennedy made a speech in the living room, everyone did their best to cram inside or into the doorways at either end. "When I banned cell phones and iPods from our trip to the Final Four, the idea was that it would bring us closer together, that we'd be talking and listening each other a lot more like a family," said Kennedy. "Mrs. Boyce's hospitality tonight has really reinforced that. Now we have a home and not just a hotel. I think she deserves a round of applause." Near the end of the clapping and cheers, Aaron announced, "There's one more family thing. It was Ma's idea. Since Rocco's parents couldn't make it from Croatia, my aunt and uncle agreed to take their place. Come on in." The pair made their way into the living room, wearing curly red wigs. "They'll be the only black people at the game with bright red hair," Aaron told Rocco over a wave of laughter. "They're your new peeps." "It's like looking in a mirror," said Rocco with a huge smile across his face before he hugged them both. And right now, as Rocco gets into position on the court beside Malcolm McBride, he finds his surrogate family in the stands behind the Troy bench and gives them a big thumbs up. But somehow, instead of making Rocco feel better, it only makes him miss his real family even more. So these last few pages weren't just about Rocco, but it also gives us some insight into his teammates as well, because again, that's what the Trojans are. They're a team. And we see in these last few pages, really it goes a step further in that. They're not just a team, but they're a family. They've created this close-knit group that supports one another and loves on one another, basically exactly what a team should be. And since Aaron is from Louisiana and from New Orleans, he has the entire team and coaching staff over to his house, and his mom makes them all this great homemade food. And even Aaron's aunt and uncle, right, since Rocco's parents can't make it from Croatia to the game, they're going to support him, and they come out with these bright curly red wigs on. And so it just shows you like how close this group of players really is. But despite all that, it does tell us at the end there that Rocco is still like a little bit homesick and wishes that his own parents were there for this game. And these next several pages, these are all journal entries that he has written over the years, because it tells us that he does want to be a journalist. And so he's kept a journal to like practice his writing in English and so forth. So that's why it's in a different font. April 18th, grade 9. Important note, this is a journal, not a diary. A diary is for girls and their heartaches of love. I have no heart troubles yet because I do not have a girlfriend that is steady. This is my first time writing in a journal. I'm starting in high school first year. My Uncle Drazen says I have opinions worth something now, but not cash money. This journal is his idea. He is a writer for his job. He is a journalist at a newspaper here in Zagreb, capital city of Croatia. Uncle Drazen says I should write in English. For many more people can understand my words on future dates. I study English since grade 4. The vocabulary of mine is getting stronger and better every day. I see U.S. movies like The Departed, Friday Night Lights, Kill Bill. I hear U.S. music also, songs by Slim Shady and Snoop Dogg. So I know the English language sounds for real, street real. Not like the fake Harry Potter from the English of England. I call Wizard Harry Potter fake because no magic words can change things. That is the lesson you learn in Croatia past school time. Wishes and words mean nothing. So again, think about comparing these different players as you read this book. Here we can see that when he is in 9th grade, his English, is impressive, but it still has a long way to go before he is fluent in English and has mastered the English language, but we learn that he works really hard at that. And despite having these aspirations to be a journalist, at the end of that paragraph, right, he says that he calls Harry Potter fake. That's the lesson you learn in Croatia past school time. Wishes and words mean nothing. So remember, he is growing up like in this war-torn country where there's still like a lot of corruption and so forth going on there. How to start in my journal. Uncle Jason says from the beginning of my memory to now. Okay, first thing I know from when I am very young is war. And some days before grade 1, I am playing alone outside my house. From nowhere, there is siren and whistling sounds through the clouds and air to my ears. One shell explodes on a street close by. After that, I am upside down flying, very scared, crying for my mother. But it is my mother that grabbed me. She is carrying me to the basement of my neighbor for safe shelter from shells. I sleep that night on the floor and basement with no bathroom. Now here's my good opinion worth something. Yesterday, today, tomorrow is the same. It is like a quiet war. End of Croatia Independence War, 1995, my schoolbook states as fact. Big lie. Only true parts. No more warning sirens, no more shells, no more hiding in shelters and basements with neighbors. But war is still here in Croatia. Every day tonight. War is left over. How? Much less tourists travel to here for vacation time to spend money. Few good jobs, much drinking and drugs. War is poor people fighting for money. The factory job for my father? Open, closed, open, closed. That is today. So you think about, once a country survives a war and the war ends, is the war really over? There's so much rebuilding that needs to happen. There's so much corruption that happens. And that's what Croatia is facing during this time that he is writing this journal. But there is good things in my life too. Uncle Drazen lives in our house now with me, my mother, my father. My uncle has no spouse or child yet, so I am like his son. He teaches me to play basketball, shoot, dribble, pass, defense. Always more defense. Uncle Drazen beat me last time we played, 15-12. Future, I want to play for my high school team. I practice very much with my friends after school, homework, house chores. I am almost 6 feet in height, but more inches are needed. Uncle Drazen said size of heart is more important than inches for basketball. Each Saturday, we get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch Kobe, LeBron, D-Wade play in NBA on satellite TV. But the very best is past Michael Jordan highlight dunks on YouTube. He is king of mad hoop hops. I bow down to him, even if he is retired and old. For now, I can only touch the official 10-foot rim. My father said basketball is for child, not man. He said enjoy while I still can, and he'd laugh at Uncle Drazen for spending so much time on sport. One day I will dunk. When I possess more inches and more heart, I will do this before I am a grown man with family to worry for. September 14th, grade 10. My lifelong dream has become true. I made my high school basketball team. 2 days passed, I went to the first tryout in our gymnasium. I was sweating an ocean of salt water even before the tryout begins. There were 37 hopeful players to fill up just 13 spots for the roster, but 10 of those spots were taken up automatic by returning players from last year. That meant my chances were very poor. I missed the only 2 shots I took. Clank, clank, all nerves and no shooting touch. But on defense, I played against a senior all-star guard with more inches and muscles than me. I was not embarrassed by him, and he was able to keep him always within my arm's reach. I did not sleep a wink later that night. Like I only knew an alphabet without the zzz. I made no journal entries, so I would not have to read it forever if I got cut. Uncle Drazen could see I was uptight and did not push me for details. The next day at school, I am on the list of players making the first cut, from 37 down to 20. At the second tryout, my defense is even better. I also made 3 of 3 shots and know that God heard my praying and guided the most difficult one into the basket. Again, I had little sleep, only this time for excitement because I know I played well. Uncle Drazen could see it in my eyes. He patted me on the back and said, "It is beautiful to feel so alive for something." This morning, I walked up to the list with my eyes closed. Then I opened them with 2 sets of fingers crossed. Hooray! Props to me. My name is printed number 12 of 13 in the coach's own handwriting. All day long, school is a joy. Nothing can bring me down. At home, my father shakes my hand, warning that studying and chores must always come first. Uncle Drazen kisses my cheek, saying he will sweep the yard every day in my place in exchange for tickets to my first professional game. When my uniform comes, I will sleep in it. I will wear it under my street clothes. I have already told my mother that I will wash it myself by hand, never to let it out of my sight. So you can feel the pride and sense of accomplishment he has in making this team. November 15th, grade 10. Today I make my first dunk on the official height rim during basketball practice at school. It was 10 feet of rim versus 6 foot 2 inches of me. No problem. The sound of the basket shaking was like a beautiful music to my ears. It pumped me up more than any Jay-Z beat. And I smiled after dunking for a long time without stopping until my cheeks felt sore. When I returned home, my father shook my hand and told me now I can concentrate on real life. So I wait for Uncle Drazen to arrive from his job. I dragged him to the hoops at the public park in the cold to show off. He took a picture of my dunk skills on his cell phone and saved it to his wallpaper. We celebrated with high fives and caramel custard. He has not won against me in games of one-on-one for a while now, but I do not rub it into his face. December 1st, 10th, grade 10. Yes! Now I will have money for dates. Uncle Drazen fixed me for Saturday work at his newspaper. My job is to load the big bundles of papers into the trucks for delivering. He said to me, "It is a job that a teenage boy can handle because your mind can be on 20 different things at one time and still do it right." I need the money because girls such as Rosa, Teresa, and even Hot Legs Valeria look at me now, and not just like a skinny scarecrow. They see me wear my team jacket and sweatsuit everywhere. Those clothes are babe magnets to the highest degree, even more important than a car. January 13th, grade 10. There was another gang attack in my school today. It happened in a classroom with a teacher present. I was not there, but others said 4 thugs from our own school ran into the room and beat Baldo M until his head began to bleed, all because he bought a long knife from one of them and didn't pay on time. Funny sad. It is more dangerous to have a weapon than not. That is why I do not carry one. The gangs leave me alone because I wear the same team jacket as others. Having teammates is protection. Even my father agrees that this is a worthy point of playing basketball. So here we have Rocco and Malcolm, and they're from opposite ends of the world, right? One is from Croatia and Eastern Europe, one is from Detroit, Michigan. And yet they both have these rough upbringings with people trying to involve them in illicit activities like gangs, like drugs, and so on and so forth. But both choose to focus on basketball instead. So even though it seems like these two people would not have any similarities between them, in fact, they do. February 5th, grade 10. Today we lost the high school championship game at Zagreb by many points. Too many points for me to write down forever in ink. It was the big smackdown and blowout. We were punked to the max. Their sadness, sorrow, and shameful heads hanging down with all of my teammates and me. I wear number 23 for Michael Jordan. But my talent is not up to his number. My heart is not strong enough to be a champion yet. If you go back to the prologue where they have all the teams listed, you'll notice that he still wears the number 23 in college as well. All basketball season, my playing time grew more and more minutes, being on the court and off the bench. So I'm at least happy for that. Uncle Drazen came to clap for me and give advice like a second coach. He is also a second father in my life, which means much more. He said there would be a story about the game in his newspaper, my first time in a newspaper, and I will not want to read it because we lost by so much. Tough on me. February 16th, grade 10. Uncle Drazen has 2 victories to celebrate today. One of his stories about criminal organizations in Croatia is on the front page again. He has the heart to tell the truth and point finger to fat Tony Soprano mobsters and crime families of Zagreb. They rip off hardworking people little by little to add up to their loot. The headlines on the front pages have my uncle's name. I see it thousands of times on Saturdays before the papers leave by trucks. Uncle Drazen's new job of editor is also an official victory now. It comes with a money raise, but also another price tag. Letters and phone calls come to his office with violent threats for the truth he writes about. He told me basketball and writing is not for scared little mice, that when you lose the courage to say what you are thinking, you will have nothing left. Uncle Drazen has the heart I want to grow inside of me. It is the champion's heart. He is the Michael Jordan of newspaper writing. So we learned basically his hero. He admires Michael Jordan for his basketball skills, but it sounds like Rocco's real hero is his uncle, Uncle Drazen, who works for this newspaper. And, despite the possible threats he might receive, he still prints the truth about the organized crime and corruption that is happening in Croatia. And so this chapter just gives us a little bit more background and insight into Rocco's history.